Welcome back, everybody. This is ISA Insider News. My name is Max Tim, and we have with us, of course,
Shayna Weber. And who's our special guest?
This is Archimedes. As some of you who have watched my Connect webinars, you know all about this monster. He was tearing up the chair, so I had to pick him up and give him some attention. But I got to put you down, big guy. There he is.
He loves it, though.
Three-legged
like, I love you.
All right. So how was your week?
I think it was good. It was kind of a blur. My kid was home from school because of Veterans Day. So it felt like one big long, like half the week of school and then a big old long extended weekend of stuff.
A lot of those are coming up. Holidays are right
I know.
You're not excited about it.
He's an only child, so he wants all the attention all the time, and I love it. I'm not complaining. He wants to do arts and crafts every single second. And I kind of just want him to go play by himself, and he needs help. And so it's just like crafting with like little pellet things that you iron together, and it's just tedious.
It's a lot when you have other
it's a lot.
That's your main responsibility, obviously, your child, but then
like... I know. Like, can you just be like a normal kid to play a video game or watch TV?
Oh, Max. Well, I did not have the same weekend. Mine was pretty open and nothing really to report. We'll talk about what we're watching. I watched a little bit, but it's right in the middle of the football season, so it was all about football as usual. Let's get into the top headline. That's a nice segue too.
All right. Our top headline this week comes from Variety. Broadcast TV's new fall series ranked by premiere viewers. So we're talking about the shows that are on regular old networks that we used to watch: ABC, NBC, CW, Fox, and ABC. Yeah, ABC.
Yeah, and they have a list of how the new shows did, their premieres in terms of number of viewers. And it's an interesting thing. I know Scott Marcus, who helps us produce this, he's a big numbers guy. I like looking at numbers and comparing things. And I mean, these numbers that they show in the article are not showing, of course, delayed viewing, on-demand viewing, streaming, because you can watch these shows also on their different network apps and everything. So it's just purely when people tuned in to watch. So you have to kind of take that into account.
And it was for the premiere. It was just the premiere.
Yeah, just the premiere, which, when you look at the number one, number two, number three, the numbers are like, that's not so bad. It's pretty good. But when you compare it to history, the finale for Seinfeld, which of course it's difficult to compare that because it was quite literally the biggest show ever. And then the finale for Friends. So the Friends finale had 52.5 million viewers. And the Seinfeld finale had 76.3 million viewers, which is crazy. But you compare that to the numbers in these 5.3 or so million people watching the premiere of these shows, obviously quite a bit smaller of a number, but it's something to note. It's good. It's good to see that people are still watching network television. However, most people are watching streaming.
Yep. A little bit like, well, put yourself in perspective of these, but there's a couple shows that I honestly have never even heard of, like the number one show, Fire Country.
Yeah.
I totally can picture it. Seems like a CBS show. It's right in that family. Yeah. I get it. The same East New York.
East New York. I have no idea what that show is.
Also CBS, which makes sense that they are the powerhouse of those like wolf shows and NCIS and all of those. Yeah. But yeah, don't even know. So
procedurals are still huge, man. Everybody, with Law and Order, CSI. I mean, the people, gosh, they watch the heck out of these shows. So they're going to keep making them, of course, if people are still watching these things. But there's just such a wide range of stuff to watch nowadays. It's just kind of crazy.
Fire Country, like, well, that makes total sense. They've done firehouse shows in the city, but like out in wildfires, I mean, it makes perfect sense, right?
Right. Yeah. Oh, it does. It does. That's our top headline. Just to remind everybody that we've got new fall shows. We're in the thick of things in terms of, the shows coming back on air. There's going to be a lot coming out over the holiday season because most people are going to be home. Most people are experiencing some form of cold weather. And so we're staying in on the couch and watching some TV. So we want to know from you, what are you watching from a network standpoint? Do you watch network shows? not streaming? Do you, and you might stream it through like a YouTube TV or something like I do. Like I watch Ghosts religiously. I'm checking like every other night because I never remember what night the show's on. So I'm like, is there a new episode of Ghosts? Darn it. But let us know what you're watching.
I want to hear if anyone watches that Fire Country. I
Yeah.
want to see if I should watch it.
What we're going to be talking about today, we're going to add a little segment, news you can use. We're going to be referencing some additional headlines from across the spectrum of various trade resources. But then also, of course, this week in ISA, we're going to be talking about how to layer your scenes. We're going to be talking about what we watched, of course. We've got an interesting Twitter question up, and a little bit of a cynical good news story for the week.
It's quite humorous.
Yeah.
It depends if your glass is half full or half empty, quite frankly.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing Shayna and I kind of tend to have in common. We might be a little less than half full.
Totally.
News you can use, headlines that we found, just kind of cultivated from around town. Which ones you find?
We decided that we wanted to add a couple more in here that were noteworthy but weren't a top headline for us. So I pulled the obvious box office news from Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. I have not seen it. I've actually not seen any Black Panthers, but I think I'm going to do a marathon of all the Black Panther movies because now my kid is interested in that. So I think it would be a good time. And I'll report back on how that goes.
I'll make a mental note that I'll watch the first Black Panther. I haven't seen it, so we should watch it and we can give our like I already know I'm going to love it. So that's one reason why it's like
I know. And I'm like, why haven't I watched this? But I also haven't watched all the Avengers movies and all of that stuff. I think my kid was just too young for a while, so we weren't really like I wasn't going to the movies or whatever. But what they're saying about this new Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, it's one of the biggest debuts of the year at the box office with $181 million.
Yeah, it's huge.
North America. So it's pretty great.
It says so much also about Marvel and the MCU. I mean, there are a couple little references in this article. Only 15 films in history, 9 of which hail from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, have launched to more than 175 million. Only 15 in the history of movie making, and 9 of them are Marvel movies. That's crazy. And then half of the top 10 highest grossing domestic releases in history are a Marvel movie. This is never going
Crazy.
away.
It is Wakanda Forever. It's Marvel forever until DC's going to come right in with James Gunn.
It's going to be interesting.
He's going to whip things up. It's going to be fantastic. I'm very excited.
They're going to have to, but now there's like a positive and negative, because that means we're just going to get a whole lot more comic book movies and TV shows coming out, which some people are like, ugh, but
I'm excited for what they're going to do at DC because he's just so smart and innovative and really understands the comic book world in terms of like character and what people want. So I think it's going to be fantastic. I'm very excited to see what they're going to do over there. So congrats, James Gunn.
Yeah.
The other article that I chose is also from Variety, and it's a list. If you know me, you know I love lists. And it's the 10 Latino content creators to watch. And I just love these lists because I generally don't know a lot of these people, just because that I don't know, whatever, I'm in my own bubble. But I love it because then I get to read about, oh, who's that person? What are they doing? Where are they from? And it's just it just adds levels that I need. I honestly need it. I need an easy list to read and be like, okay, I feel a little bit more current. Let me learn about these people.
Yeah, and a lot of these people are very young and they're up and coming and they're new, and so there's going to be a whole bunch of new content not only created by them, but people are starring in this content, and we need to be knowing who these names are for sure.
Yep.
The one I found is not nearly as exciting as the two you found, but I am a subscriber to YouTube TV to watch all of my streams of basically every network you can imagine. Plus, I like watching sports. And so I specifically signed up for YouTube TV for that. And I was very interested to see, because the headline we're sharing here is Hulu adds 14 live TV channels to pay TV package, including Hallmark, Weather Channel, and more. And I wanted to see the comparison between what I'm paying for YouTube TV versus what Hulu TV live costs. And you get Disney Plus, you get the ESPN Sports package, plus I think like 85 channels or something with Hulu TV. I don't know the number of channels you get for YouTube TV. I know that there are a lot of channels on there that I do not care about, but I'm paying
Right.
almost,
That's what I use.
it's like $97 a month for YouTube TV, which is like, okay, I thought this was supposed to be cheaper.
Right.
Hulu Live TV now, I found out, is about $84 a month, so it's not that much less. But if I take away what I'm paying for Disney Plus, it's actually $74. So I don't know. I think for all of you who do want to subscribe to something, or you were currently subscribing to something, it's good to compare, because you're not tied to these things like you are with, with like DirecTV used to tie you in for like, 2 years or something.
Right, they would. Yeah, it was like you had to do a 2-year contract or whatever. Oh, I
Yeah.
remember those days. Yeah, you can jump. Do a jump over and see what it's like. See if you like, how everything works. I use Hulu just because for me it's so user friendly. I used to do YouTube, but for me it was like I didn't want the sports stuff, and so I feel like on Hulu I can disguise or like not, those things don't show up as much. I mean,
Oh,
they do, but I don't know, maybe it's not so prominent because it's showing the things that I do watch.
I like YouTube TV. It's kind of cool because it has like that very old school traditional channel guide that you can flip through, which I really don't even use that
Oh,
much.
sure.
I don't use it that much, but
Hulu has that.
Hulu has the guide too. Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
I got it mainly because I watch MLB television. It's one of the only streaming services that has the MLB network. I'm like, all right, I'll get that. But when the season's done, then I'm like, well, what am I doing paying $97 a month for something that,
Right.
But anyway, let us know what streaming service you use and how much it costs. We can compare.
Yeah, tell us how much it costs so we can do our research for us, people.
Yeah.
Tell us how to save bucks.
Yeah. All right, moving over to the next segment. We got This Week in ISA Insider. What do we have?
So this is from Creative Screenwriting, and it is a cool article called How to Layer Your Screenplay Scenes. And once again, we're pulling in the educational aspect of these articles, talking about making sure that all of your scenes are working for you and the overall story that you're trying to tell. And those include they're calling it the Holy Trinity of the elements that need to be in each scene, which is plot, character, and theme. And I will let Max, who's the director of education, take over.
It's a tricky one to talk about for like less than 5 minutes because it's such a huge topic. But the article gives a ton of examples, even showing lines of dialogue, individual scenes that are presenting, all three of those things: character, plot, and theme. The tricky part is that you have to consider a theme. I'm sorry, you have to consider a scene being an individual piece of the overall DNA, but that DNA of the story you're telling evolves and changes. And so, in my lectures, I talk a lot about, what your recurring moment is, what that repeatable moment that you're going to see throughout the middle of your movie, so-called, or in every episode of TV. You're going to always see some form of, Walt in Breaking Bad doing something in the drug world, and you just kind of have a level of expectation, and you brainstorm from that as far as what your recurring moment is. But that's all just basic plot stuff, and really not even plot, because plot has that inherent need for a goal and a pursuit to achieve something. But then each individual scene also has some level of, we're trying to achieve something. And so that's what I mean by DNA. Each scene is an individual, the overall whole. And what you said before we started this is that we forget too often the theme and what we're trying to say in our story. What is it? What's the message we're trying to say? What was the feeling I had when I thought about this story in general? Am I delivering that in every scene? Am I delivering some form of it in every episode? And you mentioned that Jen Grisanti recently said something on Twitter.
Yeah, she was talking exactly about this, of how what she's seeing is that shows are forgetting in episodes as it goes what they started with thematically, of what message they were trying to tell, what they were trying to really dig into, that underlying sort of like idea. What are we learning from this? What are we taking away from this? She's been noticing that in shows. So I thought that was really interesting how it related back to this article. And while you were talking, Max, I was like this. I was like, because what you were saying was like, do my scenes have this? I got now I gotta check. You know what I mean? Like
The
it's
hard part
always
is,
just like remembering these things
yeah,
and trying to break it down in a way that you can go, yes, it has this, it has this, it has this. Okay. on to the next. And it's overwhelming sometimes.
Totally overwhelming, because in a movie you've got maybe 50 scenes. In a TV show you might have like 30 scenes for an hour long, and then all of those scenes evolve multiple storylines and evolve characters' flaws. Their flaws are changing, but then coming from that perspective, how are we, the audience, noticing that the flaw is being confronted in some way and they're changing, which then technically proves theme, or at least presents the evolution of the message you're trying to. It's a lot. And so reading these articles, it gives you a little bit of a check system. It's kind of like one of the only things I remember in math class is that a lot of the formulas you could use as a check system. Did I do this correctly? And that's in a creative process like this correctly. There's no such thing, but am I at least trying to do what I'm trying to do?
And there's some great examples in here. I forgot about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I've never seen The Verdict, and now I want to see it. There's just some really great, thoughtful examples in here. So make sure that you read the whole thing and check it out. It's good education and it's entertaining. I mean, who doesn't love to read some really great scenes?
Yeah. The Verdict is an incredible movie. I studied that in a film class that I can't remember, and we like broke down the script and did all these different production notes and things. And I should go back to it. It's been a long time, but anyway, that is this week in ISA Insider. Let's get on to our next segment, which is usually our most candid. What are we watching?
So I only watched one new thing. I rewatched Home Alone and Home Alone 2, which as I get older, I'm appreciating more and more. They are just classically fun, laugh out loud, almost like chuckle out loud. It's that like just that outward laughter of how ridiculous it is when a brick keeps landing on someone's face. It's just funny, and it's not funny because you're going, oh my God, they would be dead.
It's the anvil falling. Yeah.
It's Wile E. Coyote, Jimmy, Tom and Jerry. So I watched those, and then I watched a couple episodes of the Guillermo del Toro Cabinet of Curiosities on Netflix, which I enjoyed. I'm excited to watch more. They're kind of Twilight Zone-y, where they're just like one-offs with a short story. So I'm interested to see kind of where it goes. The first two weren't home runs for me. They were almost like beginnings of things, and I didn't really feel fulfilled, to be honest with you. So I'm hoping that like the later ones and maybe the finale are just like really good.
I wonder if it ties it all together, because I had that's my big fear tuning into something new, is being unfulfilled after the end of it. I'm like, man, I just spent an hour on this, and I'm like, I could have. This is what I think a lot of viewers are thinking right now. Like I'm committing to an hour of my life here. It better be good. And then sometimes you're just a little disappointed, but I should have watched that a little bit more during the Halloween season. Now I'm gearing a little more toward your Home Alone 2 kind of Christmas, holiday movie.
Right.
Watching, but it's a holiday thing. But I did watch the first 3 episodes of this Amazon show called The English, and it's with Emily Blunt, who I love, and she's awesome in this. But it's reminiscent of 1883, which was the prequel to Yellowstone. But I will say, I mean, I adored every moment of 1883 and just thought it was incredible. I'm a fan of really good Westerns, and The English is a Western, but it's like a cross-country journey kind of thing. And so that interests me, but it's nowhere near as good as 1883. Archie thinks so too.
I heard that. I did hear that. He's like,
yeah. So anyway, that's all I watched. I mean, other than a whole bunch of football, I was just kind of busy working away this week.
I feel like I need to make a list of shows that I need to watch. And then, I mean, I've talked about lists this whole entire episode that we're doing. I feel like I need to create a list that I remember, because my problem is I think of something and then I forget about it. And then when I'm clicking through, that part of my brain isn't working anymore by that time at night. So I just sort of go to something familiar. And I really want to try to watch some new things and just sort of like check out some different types of shows. So
yeah, you can create lists on most of these, like Amazon, you can have a favorite list or a wish list.
Well, that's true.
I did that one night, but you're right. I make lists here at my desk, and then I go downstairs, watch TV, and then I'm on the couch. Like, I don't want to go upstairs.
Why not? I can't be bothered. I'll just watch this thing. Yeah. And why am I doing this as if like I have a remote? It's so weird. I don't know. Whatever.
All right, moving on to the Twitterverse. What's happening out there?
I don't know if anyone's been looking at Twitter this last week, but it was a chaotic disaster and it was hilarious. I mean, all these blue check marks were coming up. People were like making themselves be Rudy Giuliani and just saying a bunch of nonsense. Coca-Cola said we're going to put the cocaine back in Coca-Cola, and it got a bunch of I mean, like it was complete madness. And then finally Elon's like, scrap that because that didn't work. And a lot of screenwriting Twitter folks are leaving and going to Mastodon or something. So we were going back to basics here. Screenwriting Twitter, and there was a lovely question that was put up by Ariel Relaford. It was simply, how did you get into screenwriting? And I believe somebody asked her the question and then she answered it. So we thought that would be a really good question to ask you all. How did you get into screenwriting?
I would let us know. It's an origin story for yourself as a screenwriter. But
Yeah,
what about you?
and I was trying to remember. My very first script was a TV pilot. God, what was it called? Begin Again, maybe something like that. Anyway, first thing I ever wrote, followed the books, did all the stuff, actually got to pitch a really big Mark Gordon company and they liked it. And so
Wow.
for like 2 weeks, we were on a development deal. And then in came Reaper, which had Kevin Smith attached to direct the pilot. And so we got bumped because it was kind of similar in what it was about. But it was about like past lives, a youth hostel in Chicago that a woman took over from her dead father, and she got to like jump back in time and redo things that didn't go right. It was very cool, but it was a very big idea. I don't remember why I wrote that, and I don't remember exactly how it was like the thing to sit down and write something, but I've always been a huge fan of fantasy, Never Ending Story, Labyrinth, Dark Crystal. That's like my trifecta.
Yeah.
And so we were simultaneously writing a fantasy movie, and then this idea came up, and we loved all of this stuff like Akashic Records and all of this crazy stuff that sort of came later. People were becoming interested in. We were. So yeah, it's weird. I think we just decided we needed to do it, and we had someplace to go pitch. Like they were like, yeah, write it and come pitch us. We're like,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
No clue what we were doing. So
You got a taste of how there's something to
disappointment
do with
works.
it. Yeah. Well, I don't know if I had like a specific writing story. I just remember I was a sophomore in college and I watched the movie Braveheart for the first time on one of those tiny little tube televisions. It was probably literally about this big. And I was just completely enamored with it. And at the end of the movie, all these credits rolled. And for whatever reason, it was the first time that I looked at those credits and thought, those are jobs. People do that.
Mm.
And it never clicked that way before. I think I was in a spot in my life where I was thinking of transferring away from, I was in South Bend, Indiana, and I was thinking staying, should I go across the street? Should I go to Chicago? And I was in that decision-making mode of what do I do with my life? And I thought, oh my God, what if I do that? And then I started taking some writing classes and I thought that was easy. I don't have to necessarily learn all the production things. And then when I went to Columbia, I started writing more. And I guess that would be the origin, what got me into it. I didn't have a taste of success maybe ever.
Mine wasn't success. It was a big old lesson in just being on a high for 2 weeks and then just smashed.
Oh God. Well, yeah, you didn't
It
quit.
was like, that's what it felt like.
You didn't quit, and that's what matters. So
I didn't quit.
don't stop, everybody. All right, let's move on. Good news of the week, our final segment. What do we got here?
Once again, we found this from Good News Network. Like Max mentioned earlier, we're going to put a little bit of cynicism in this, but free hotel rooms if your Thanksgiving flights are delayed at 5 major U.S. airports.
So that is good news because you do tend to have delays. You have flights canceled, especially. This is all weather permitting. So it's cool that they're doing this. And it looks like Wyndham Hotels is teaming up with Lowe's. And you can see that very specifically in the pictures that are in this article. It's like Lowe's. And, if you're going to put all this time and energy into making sure people have hotel rooms, what if you just work a little harder to make sure that the flights aren't delayed?
Right. And also, it's 10 rooms at each of the 5 airports that they're offering. So 10 rooms for
yeah.
If a whole flight's delayed or canceled, there's going to be more than 10 rooms needed. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. And then how do you decide who gets those free rooms? I hope it's like a family of 8 or something so that they have a place to go sleep and not just some business person who happens to be like, oh, I need a room, you know? Yeah.
Right.
So it's like good news kind of masked with there could be some problems. You're like, what if, and I mean this sincerely, what if a Jewish family is given this room that's decorated for Christmas and they're like, okay, I guess we're staying here. It's probably not going to be an issue, but I don't know.
Okay, so also this is very interesting. Here's what you do if you need a room. You're supposed to visit this website, and then it shows the 5 hotels, and then each of the 5 hotels have 10 rooms. If there's no rooms available, the hotel will be grayed out and you'll be unable to select from the list. So not only are you delayed in your flight or canceled, and that stress of like figuring out how to get there, you also have to go to this website just to see if there's a room available. Do you have to, yeah, you have to present travel documents while checking in. That just sounds like a big old mess to me, honestly.
This really does. So that's why we're like Shayna had a couple of good news stories, and we just deciding on like let's do this one because I think we could actually talk about this.
This is good news because it's funny. It's like it's good news, but at the same time, you got to do a lot of work and be really lucky to get this. So
yeah. So
happy
I guess
holidays.
the holiday wishes for everyone if you are, and which I didn't realize that the busiest evening of the year is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I would assume it would be in December somewhere, but that's the busiest flight day of the year. So if you are flying on the day, please be prepared. From an astrological standpoint, Mercury is not going to be retrograde, so things should be working nicely with communication. Not that necessarily.
Oh, that's lovely.
But it's good. That's really our good news. During the holidays, Mercury is not going to be retrograde, which I believe is like the first time in about 4 or 5 years.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I'm going to get that big ticket item because Santa's going to hear me.
All right. Well, everybody, that is our news for the week. If you have comments, if you have questions, put it down in the comments. As always, if you're watching this for the first time, as the typical YouTubers always say, click that subscribe button.
Man, send us your comments. Do it. We love them.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Keep working hard. Keep writing. Keep us posted on how the work and the writing is coming along. We have a lot of things coming up with the ISA in the next month. So stay tuned. Networkisa.org or hit us up on YouTube. Thanks, everyone.